Hey guys, just wanted to do another composite review for last week's shows since I wasn't able to do one because for each episode, so I'm just going to be able to quickly just cover The Flash, Legends, and Arrow and they're all going to be on hiatus until end of April, but I will be doing like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. videos and maybe like throwing a few other shows that I'm looking at if I have time to binge watch them, but anyway, let's get started with the Flash. So for season 3, episode 18, Abracadabra, the titular villain is robbing Stag Industries by using a device which phases him out of a glass container and the two guards into it and causes them to drown, causing water to come out from like the sides of it, even though there wasn't any water there. And Barry and Joe are called onto the scene of the crime. And then while they're there, he's called about another heist, and he runs over to Mercury Labs, where he encounters Abracadabra, who he finds out is from the future, and also knows that the Flash is Barry Allen. And he used like a handkerchief to hide some piece of tech, and then Gypsy shows up through a breach, and during the fight, Kadabra uses some kind of card trick to make his escape, and Gypsy convenes with Team Flash, saying that he's a criminal from the 64th century who laced his body with nanotech that's so advanced that everything comes across as magic. It's like Clark's third law. Caitlin explains that anything that comes across is not understood as magic. It not understood by science is considered magic, which is something that kind of explored in like Thor, the first one, and he ends up showing up at Star Labs to like trash the place, and when Barry puts cuffs on him, Abracadabra gives him an ultimatum: let him go free, and he'll give him the identity of Savitar. Barry's conflicted, so he just punches him out and puts him in the pipeline, and he's actually considering letting him go, but Iris considers that as much as Barry loves her, he can't put one life above the greater good, especially considering Abracadabra has been a mass murderer on both Earths and Earth 19, and it turns out that Gypsy wants to take him into custody and wants him executed. You can tell she's really like more intense and hot-headed than she usually is, instead of more calm and collected and just snarky, even when Cisco's trying to get her to open up and make a move on her. And it turns out because Abracadabra murdered her partner, both his professional partner and her romantic partner. They're one and the same while he was on Earth 19, and that's why she has such a personal stake in it. And Joe is actually the one who decides to take up Kadabra's deal because he doesn't want Iris to die. So he releases him from the pipeline, and just as he's about to say who Savitar is, Gypsy shows up saying, "What the hell are you doing?" And that allows not only for Kadabra to make his escape, but also for him to grab some kind of like sphere from a time vault. And he causes an explosion, which causes some shrapnel to be impaled into Caitlin and damage her kidneys to the point where Caitlin has to... They can't take her to her hospital because they're going to identify her as a meta from her rampage she went on during episode 307. And so Caitlin has to talk both Julian and Iris through the whole surgery. And the whole time, like, Barry's just kind of standing there, like, waiting to see if she makes it, and I'm just thinking to myself, I even tweeted this out, why doesn't Barry just phase through Caitlin, take out the shrapnel, and have Julian stitch her up? Because I was watching a review of this episode the other day, and the guy who's reviewing it, he wasn't a war veteran and was a combat and knows that combat medics only stitch people up. So I thought it would have been more believable if if Barry had just phased through her and just removed the shrapnel, just like Teddy Sears did with Harry back in, I think it was episode 208 of the show, but drama, I guess. And it's like, I know they're trying to give Iris something to do, but it's like, we want something people want her to do something related to journalism. If she's really supposed to be the Lois Lane to Barry's Superman, it's like, show that. It's like, I'll be happy if they say like, oh, she's at work, or like people like, or they're running to her at like the Barry or Joe to talk to her while she's at the newspaper. It's like having her like do like help with surgery. It's just having her, making her stick out like a sore thumb, and not. But that's just one of my gripes about it. But Gypsy and I think Cisco theorized, because of something he stole, Abracadabra stole from the Time Vault, that he's been stealing all this tech from both Earths in order to make a time machine to get himself back to the 64th century, one which coincidentally looks a lot like those like jump ships from the Wave Rider on Legends of Tomorrow. And so Barry, Kid Flash, Gypsy, and Cisco are both chasing him around the city on the time ship. And coincidentally, it seems like everybody is like so unfazed by the stuff that goes on in Central City that it's like motorists seem to just go past and not seem to react to a flying ship going through downtown. But like speedsters or breachers, it's like they're the ones that are like, they almost get into head-on collisions. But eventually, just when they think Cadaver's about to make his escape, Barry's able to run fast enough to not only catch up with the ship, but also phase through the cockpit and phase out of it with Cadaver in tow and take him into custody. And even though he decides not to let him go, he obviously decides not to let him go, he tries to appeal to Cadaver's humanity, saying, like, you must have people you care about. I have someone I care about, like Iris. Just please tell me who Savitar is. But he just gets smug about it and says that how, they were enemies in the future, persistent enemies in the futures for years, and that unlike Thawne or Zoom or a guy named DeVoe, who is supposed to be known in the comic books as the Thinker, I think it's supposed to be like foreshadowing that he's supposed to be the main villain of season 4, since the producers said they're not going to go with another evil speedster as the season big bad. He also gets smug, saying that Savitar is the one who hurt Barry the most, and so he says, like, by keeping the secret that he feels like he gets to kill Iris too. But it also kind of makes me wonder if he ever like really knew, which also kind of pissed me off, because like I said, the show's going on hiatus. We're 18 episodes in, we still have no idea like who this guy's supposed to be, and you're kind of wondering like if Savitar ever knew who his true identity, because he was talking about him as if, and describing him in the same way that Jay Garrick did in 309, where it's like, oh, he was the first speedster, he found the Philosopher's Stone millennia ago, when all evidence points to the fact that this is like, he's not the actual Savitar of God of Motion of Legend. He's just somebody who took on the name and persona. So it kind of makes you points out, it kind of makes him bigger as to if he really knew who Savitar was. But Barry decides that his best option is, because villains like Thawne and Savitar and Cadaver's always have the one up on him, because they're from the future. He decides he's going to run to the future and figure out what happens and figure out what he needs to know about Savitar's identity and how to save Iris once and for all. And the interesting thing is that even though Savitar's identity is not revealed, it does cut to the pre-credit scene about 5 minutes early, with HR was absent the whole time because Tom Cavanaugh's directing the next episode, so he couldn't be in this one. And Caitlin's having some Jello with Cisco, and everything's like nice and jovial. But then all of a sudden, her body starts to she starts having a seizure, almost in the same way that Laurel Lance did back in season 4 of Arrow, when she was dying of complications from the surgery. And she does flatline, and out of desperation, Julian removes, against Caitlin's wishes from before, the necklace that were keeping his powers at bay, because it's like, oh, I don't care, I'm not willing to let her die, because her metahuman powers allow her give her a healing factor like Barry, and while she does heal, he doesn't bother to put the necklace. He's so like excited about her being alive that he forgets to put the necklace back on, and there's this huge like Arctic blast throughout the room, and like Caitlyn's gone into full on Killer Frost, and like I said, this is supposed to be like a major cliffhanger, and based on circumstantial evidence, but like they haven't been able to prevent a lot of the future headlines. The fact that the fact that Daniel Panabaker said this was supposed to be Caitlin Frost's origin story this season, and given for the whole like death and rebirth metaphor that seems they were going for in this scene, it seems like this might be she might not be coming back from this. This transformation might be permanent, and it's a little bit bittersweet because I like Caitlin being the heart of Star Labs, one of the hearts of the show. But at the same time, it's like I liked her. I've been wanting her to become a big bad, and she proved in 307 she can be a very formidable enemy to Barry. And since they're trying to go away from non-speedsters, I would be happy to see more non-speedsters pose a threat to Barry as opposed to just evil speedsters, because it's getting really, really repetitive. Now, in Season 2, Episode 16 of Legends of Tomorrow, Doom World, we get to see this kind of hellish world, or at least what the world looks like with the Legion of Doom in charge. Thawne never went back to the future. He's in charge of Star Labs in present day and has made all these, advancements and technological achievements and scientific achievements on Earth, and is considered the smartest man alive because of his knowledge of the future. And is, like I said, running Star Labs, and he's friends with the president, and they even made a joke saying that the president's wife's name was Mel, so knowing Mark Guggenheim, and rightfully so, making all these little like Easter eggs and like jabs about Arrow having Russians work with an American businessman, or a president with a wife named Mel, you can tell it was kind of a take that at Donald Trump. Malcolm Merlin's in charge of his bit company again. His Tommy and Rebecca revived, and he's on good terms with Thea. It never seemed like he ever bothered to take over. Even though he never went back to taking over the League of Assassins, he was still petty enough to put Nyssa in some closeted, unhappy life in the suburbs of Ohio. Dark is the mayor of Star City now, and has Sarah and Amaya working as his henchwomen, who actually happen to be chasing down Felicity, who is using the T-Spears and using this vigilante garb, and her goth hair is like wearing her goth hair from her college days, and she tries to make an escape, but she jumps off the edge of a building and lands somewhere where she breaks her leg, and that's why she gets captured, and eventually has her neck snapped by Sarah in front of Dark. And you can tell that she's been collecting like masks from both Team Arrow as well as from Vigilante and The Flash. And Ray's working as a janitor at Star Labs. Stein's working at Star Labs too, with Jax working as a security chief and as the middleman between him and Thawne, and just breathing down his neck and badgering him and not allowing him to see his family. Or to work on create another particle accelerator. I think it's in like a separate building, because we saw 2 shots of the Star Labs we know, and then what looked like another building that resembled the Hall of Doom. And they were forcing Stein to work on something. Nate's just a conspiracy theorist who lives in his mom's basement, and Rip is still trapped on the Wave Rider somewhere where he's like gone insane, and he still has his memories intact, and now he just feels helpless to stop the Legion now that they have the Spear of Destiny. But Malcolm is getting suspicious about Thawne and asking for the Spear of Destiny, and Thawne refuses, saying their partnership is over, and the Spear is better in his hands. And Thawne asks Mick and Rory to keep an eye on. Mick and Snart to keep an eye on Malcolm, even though they're reluctant to do so. But then, of course, Nate comes in saying that he has like subconscious memories, kind of like how he's able to notice like changes in time in the season premiere, he noticed, like, at least presumably from his subconscious memory, there had been, like, altercations in reality, but is not 100% self-aware of it. But Thawne is, getting freaked out and asks Mick and Snart to kill him. And that's when Mick decides that he's made a mistake and decides to... And he knocks out Snart and helps Nate escape and starts to try to round up the rest of the legends. First meeting up with Ray, who's playing like a video game resembling, taking out Dominators from the crossover. And apparently he's made some kind of reality gun, which allows people to, I guess, simulate their hippocampus and restore their, subconscious memories. And so he's able to... So Mick uses it on Nate and Ray, each one of them punching him for betraying them. And then Sarah and Amaya come in, being sent by Dark when Snart says that Rory's turned on them, but he's placed a tracker on Rory. And by the way, I think they mentioned Snart owns like half of Central City and also all the banks, and you can tell Mick was getting conflicted and bored because it's basically they're robbing money from themselves, and they feel like he felt like there was no challenge in that, but Snart had no problem with it. But during the whole fight, Sarah gets hit with the reality gun, and the third time, and she also punches Mick, and it also becomes this like funny joke, in which after a while he's like, Bruce Mick feels like he deserves it, but then he says like, you know what? After a while, I'm going to start hitting back, and so they decide they need to, and so of course they try to they need to get a plan in which eventually Jax comes back. Sarah's able to sneak back into City Hall and tries to get to Amaya, but Dark realizes because they got separated, he starts to realize, oh, maybe she got their memories back, and he starts bragging on about killing Laurel and killing her again in this timeline to see if she regains her memories. And Sarah eventually loses her composure and punches Dark, but Dark, who's got his idol back as well as his magic in this timeline, uses kinesis to telekinetically, hold her in midair and monologues to the point where it's even like where even Snart's like, really, you're gonna choose now to do a bad guy monologue, and wants to have Amaya kill Sarah, but she takes out the reality gun and restores her memories, and so they're able to make a run for it. And even Malcolm jokes, for what it's worth, it was a very good bad guy monologue. They're eventually able to get Jax back to their side, and they realize that the accelerator that Thawne wants to build is as a means to destroy the Spear of Destiny, just so no one else can use it. And Jax tries to go back in and talk to Stein, but because he's been treated like crap by Jax, where he got his memories back, he knocks over and destroys the gun and hits a silent alarm, which allows basically Thawne and company to show up. And of course the rest of the Legion of Doom show up because they're sick of Thawne's bullshit and want to get the Spear of Destiny as well. And so an all-out fight breaks out, and eventually Mick is one of the people who gets his hands on the spear and wants and eventually Amaya is able to appeal to Mick's better nature to rejoin the Legends, because he defected back to the Legion briefly when Sarah says, we don't trust you, and especially after Snart just called him an idiot and a glorified attack dog. And Maya is able to figure out the chant and recite it to try to reverse the damage, but Snart kills her and shatters her with a cold gun, and then Thawne uses that everybody's being shocked by the death to destroy the spear, and now it's like there's nothing they can do to reverse it. And even Thawne taunts them, saying that killing you would be a merciful, but just knowing that neither the Legion or the Legends can reverse the damage, he just shoos them off and says that he's won. but they refuse to believe that but the legends refuse to accept defeat, and so Sarah suggests they break their one cardinal rule, which is to go back to the events of episodes 215 and make sure and help themselves, like prevent the spear, help their past selves and prevent the spear from falling into Legion's hands in the first place, since it's the only way to stop them now, even though that's at the risk of causing a time paradox. But they figured it's like they have no other option, and Gideon is eventually able to give Rip a pep talk into sending out a signal to the legends, and you found out that the Wave Rider as well as Rip was shrunken down as like sitting on Thawne's desk as like a desk decoration. But overall, I thought this was like a really great episode, probably the second best episode, or just as good as, say, like Doom World, because just saying, having like the Legion in charge and just kind of really raises the stakes now as to how they're going to fix things in the season finale. Now, season 5, episode 18, disbanded. Oliver has said he doesn't want to be a vigilante anymore. He's disbanded Team Arrow. He sends everybody home, even though he's clearly been like emotionally broken, physically emotionally broken by this time from being tortured by Adrian Chase. And even though Oliver's like changed the passcodes and prevented the rest of the team from getting back into the Arrow Cave, even though they never really established that, since it seems like any idiot could walk in there. Diggle says that Oliver's is in a bad headspace right now, and that they're going to keep the team going without Oliver, and not just going to be an anti-Prometheus task force. They're still going to fight the crusade that Oliver started. But Diggles becomes horrified by the fact that now that in order to get rid of Adrian Chase, that he's hired Anatoly and the Bratva to murder him, and he's actually paying off Anatoly by allowing him to steal diabetes drugs in order to engineer a powerful street drug to sell on the black market, of course. And this causes a lot of conflict between the Bratva and Oliver and Team Arrow, because first you have Team Arrow trying to stop the theft of the diabetes medication, and then you also have the team trying to stop the hit on Adrian Chase when his escort's attacked by the Bratva. And during the whole scuffle, when Curtis tackles Chase, he's able to use one of his T-Spears to, scan him for, it was a type of technology that Felicity was talking with somebody at Helix about, which electronically scrambled his face when there was security footage of him Chase unmasking himself on top of the rooftop. It was redundant. During episode 515, and they need to get the tech. They need to get an idea of the schematics for the tech in order to steal it from Cord Industries and use it to descramble his face and use it as proof for the authorities. And Oliver is basically getting pissed at Diggle and the team's interference with his mission to take out Adrian Chase, and he says that he's not a hero. He says that Prometheus showed him his true colors, and that he uses lust for murder to justify a killing spree, and no one else should get hurt because of that. And Diggle says that, I've stood by you for too long, and Diggle talks about how Oliver convinced him to atone for his actions as Spartan rather than just rotting in jail for killing Andy, and that Diggle's basically like, I owe you one, so I'm going to return the favor and convince you to do the same and do things the right way. And this is like a testament to the fact that I think it's like one of the scenes I enjoyed this episode so much is because this is the strongest you see in like the Oliver Diggle dynamic. When I don't know, it feels like season 4 is just had more to do with him was providing, love advice to Felicity and having to deal with his own baggage because of stuff going on with Andy. That was kind of nice to see as a testament to how far their bond has come and how strong it is, that he's basically able to talk Oliver into stopping the Bratva from committing the robbery and basically trying to steal the diabetes medication again. So he breaks in with the rest of Team Arrow, where Curtis and Felicity are able to break in and steal the tech from Cord Industries that they need to get the proof on against Chase. And then, of course, Anatoly crosses the line where he goes as far as to take innocent people hostage and threatens to kill them unless Oliver doesn't interfere with his plans again. But then the team's able to free the hostages. Oliver trips a silent alarm, forcing both teams to run. And Oliver is disappointed in Anatoly because he thought that their friendship would be able to survive, this kind of, just doing business crap. But the reality of it is, like, he's still the head of a crime organization, even though it was supposed to. Oliver tried to convince him to bring it back to the way it was in the flashbacks before he was dropped off again at Lian Yu, and kind of being this like Robin Hood-esque kind of organization, as shown as being able to steal food for sick children at a hospital. Oliver says he's become no better than Gregor, and Anatoly says that he was afraid of what he would become without Oliver's influence, but now it just says like their friendship is dead and that you can't get rid of him that easily. But Felicity's able to use the tech to descramble the video and send Adrian as Prometheus to both the police and also just put it up on YouTube. And while Chase is in protective custody, the U.S. Marshal is protecting him, gets a text. Chase hears the phone vibrating and seems to know that his secret's out, and he's able to kill both the U.S. Marshals and drive off into the night, covered in blood, whatnot, driving past police cars, traveling to the scene, and he starts whistling to "It's a Beautiful Morning," which is kind of, I didn't know what to make of that. I just thought, just having him whistle and having some ominous music maybe would have worked for, making him come across as a psycho, but I don't know, that choice of music was a little bit jarring to me. But, and now it seems like apparently Prometheus is on the run. I don't know if that means like if, Talia and Artemis are going to be brought back into the picture since they were accomplices. But like I said, this show's been on a hot streak so far, and I hope it keeps it up. But anyway, what was your favorite episode from last week? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.